It's not really what I would do differently. It's more of I wish I had the guidance. So I wish I would have, for example, seen your channel first. So I was lost in space. I say, I need to get this FE to really prove myself and really cement myself as a legit engineer. Um, where to start? YouTube, Google, and one of the first things that pops up all the time is PPI, School of PE. So I started there. And again, you gotta love it. You gotta have that passion, because it makes it all the more worth it, you know. And then there was this one moment, and I don't want to be too spiritual now or anything like that, but there was one moment where I kind of like slapped myself spiritually. I'm like, Felipe, get yourself together. Like, there is a chance that you could pass this test even with 71 minutes left. Like, it's the game is not over. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I was very hard on myself, too much hard. You would think that that is what made me pass, but maybe if I wasn't so hard on myself, I would have passed earlier or sooner, right?
So, Philip, so you graduated in 2011 with a psychology degree, and you got your MBA in healthcare administration in 2021. How did you end up in the engineering field?
Yeah, so it's a little Cinderella story, I like to say. So back in the days, when I first went to college, I graduated high school 2008. So 2000, I started September 2008 in City College in New York City, and I actually got a little mini scholarship for the Teachers Academy. So I wanted to become a teacher actually,
Hmm.
and specifically for uh, e- elementary school, so kindergarten through third grade. So as you can imagine, everyone was just gun ho for me. Say, "Oh my God, male teacher, elementary, all right." So they invested heavily in me, and I, I felt good. It felt great. Then I realized, unfortunately, teachers do not make a lot, and I'm very driven, and it sucked because I said I need something that's I know what my lifestyle is, and I need to change my career path. So after my first year of college in City College, I declared my major around sociology because they forced me to find something. So I was a sociology major. Then I said I was going to become a cop. I took the test, NYPD exam, and I score high, so they're going to call me right away. But I don't know when they're going to call me. My uncle was the one who told me, Felipe, take the refrigeration machine operator exam, which is a license by the FDNY, Fire Department in New
Hmm.
York City, New York City Fire Department, to be an operator for chillers, refrigeration machines. And I told my uncle, I said, his name is Jose, and my whole life and career I owe it to him. So kudos to him. And I said, Jose, I'm gonna become a cop, probably become the first Hispanic commissioner, and that's my life. You're like, Felipe, plan B, just in case. So that's the very first moment I was introduced to the engineering world.
Hmm.
And just keep in mind that City College has the Grove School of Engineering, which was right there, and I never even realized how close I was to my future career, and I didn't take advantage of it. I didn't have the right guidance. My
Hmm.
uncle just was winging it. Said, "Hey, take your license. You never know. Like your drive and this and that. You're gonna be a director one day." I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna become a cop, but okay." So then, by my junior year, I realized I took a lot of psychology courses, and I switched my major and I added as a double major,
Hmm.
psychology and sociology. I graduated. I was still waiting for NYPD to call me, but in between, I was a security officer in the Mount Sinai Health System in New York City. And I said to myself, I'm not going to be a security officer for no more than 2 years. If not, I'm going to join the army or do something because until they call me, uh, it's just I was always impatient, which is good and bad,
Yeah.
but it worked to my advantage. While I was waiting for them to call me, uh, the Mount Sinai Health System went through a major change, and they bought several hospitals. And the new management company that came in, which is Croto Healthcare, who I work for now, they they were, in my eyes, I don't want to talk bad about them obviously because I owe them everything too. They needed people to that know the campus. So they took a chance on me. I went to my boss, which I owe him everything, and I said, "Hey, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology. I have my refrigeration license. Oh, in between that, I I acquired my refrigeration license,
Mm.
so that pushed me in there. And my boss gave me the opportunity to become the HVAC supervisor. So that was very scary and daunting, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that all my friends and family are gonna look at this and like, "Oh, you were scared," but yeah, it was because I'm telling grown men and people in the industry that have been there for 20, 30 years basically what to do. But I was always humble, and I knew my role. I understood, and had to learn everything that I knew now I know at a short period of time. So that was the very first time that I see the potential of an engineering degree, and I was a little upset. I was like, wow, if I'd known this, I would have just applied for the Grove School of Engineering. But I have my bachelor's in psychology and sociology, and this is it. So let me just work hard. Throughout those years, again, I was very fortunate to be hired by Crothall. So Crothall Healthcare manages the plant operation and maintenance aspect of the Mount Sinai Health System. So, so we're basically like a client, and it was at that time where I was one of the very first people to be hired with Crothall to help with the growth of the management team that we have now. Uh, but throughout the years, I kept on seeing new young people come in, and they all came from SUNY Maritime and other engineering school. Manhattan College is another one. We have one engineer that he went to the Grove School of Engineering, and I was the only one that I know of that I was like, wow. It was always in the back of my head. You do engineering work, but not an engineer, and
Mm.
that kind of bothered me. Um, so that gave me the push to say, but like, no, I want to be an official engineer. And it's a long process because a lot of people ask me the question, oh, what school you went to? What school you went to? And I know where they're going with that. They're basically saying what engineering school I went to
Mm.
when I was taking the FE exam. And, and I always had to navigate around that answer. I always had to explain. We're like, well, I didn't go to an engineering school, but, and then my explanation. So luckily, New York State, um, you know, the board for surveying and engineering, they have a way that you could be qualified to take the FE exam, but it is hard. You need to get several PEs to write a letter recommendation for yourself. You need to prove that you do actual engineering work. It's just very. It's better to go back to school and get an engineering degree than the way that I did. But I already have a bachelor's, and I was already thinking of getting my master's at that time. So I said, there's no way I'm going to go and start from level one again. Let me just do this way. And that's how I got into the engineering, like in the real engineering world. So it was exciting. It was hard. And truth be said, if I known that this journey was this difficult, straining, stressful, I probably would have not done it. So everything just happened in real time, and I took it for it. I'm the type of guy that if I say I'm going to start something and I say I'm going to get it, I'm going to do it. So I feel like I added more to that answer.
Um, when we first spoke over the phone, which was we were just talking about that before we started recording. A couple years, it was like a year or a couple months before COVID. So I've known you for a couple years now, and I still remember from that phone call, I knew that you were gonna get here. I just knew like I said, it wasn't really a matter of if, it was a matter of when, because I really noticed that from that first call that you weren't going to give up. Like, it was going to be either you or the FE, right? And so, and I knew you were going to like keep going until you get your E.I.T, and then I'm sure you're going to do the same thing with your PE. Very, very dedicated person. And I got that from that call where it's like, if I want to get something, I'm gonna do it, and that's it. And you have made your mind at that point that you were gonna get the FE. Now, with that, if you would go back to that moment, I think that's when you started actually preparing for your FE. What would you have done differently to make this journey a little easier on yourself?
So I never really had any guidance. Everything was self-taught. And looking back to it, it's amazing how, because I always looked at the FE as the first part of the PE, because my ultimate goal is the PE. Since then, I met many PEs, and when I tell them my story, they say like, "Wow, like how did you teach yourself fluid mechanics? How did you, you know?" And I never really appreciate the prestigeness that the FE really holds. What I would do differently, it's not really what I would do differently, it's more of I wish I had the guidance. So I wish I would have, for example, seen your channel first. So I was lost in space. I say, I need to get this FE to really prove myself and really cement myself as a legit engineer. um where to start? YouTube, Google. And one of the first things that pops up all the time is PPI, School of PE. So I started there. I knew that I was out of my league at that time. I remember this one time that I felt like the shittiest was when I was having um I forgot which course it was, but the professor, he was a Russian guy, so he has a thick accent. He goes like, "Oh, Felipe, I can't really go back to, high school calculus. You need to go back and re-educate yourself." I'm like, "All right, sorry." And but so I grew up in the South Bronx, and that's like I went to Cardinal High School in the Bronx, and we didn't have that in our curriculum. So several things went through my head. I said, "Why wasn't this taught to me? Why is it that I can't get a straight answer?" And the answer really is that I didn't go to an engineering school. So it kind of restricted me. And I was a little, I don't want to say shy, but hesitant to ask certain questions. And I
Mm.
didn't know who really to look out for. And Kenza, all kudos to you because you were giving those answers. And I met and I saw your channel afterwards. And I'm like, damn, she really breaks everything down. And
Thank
I
you.
really, really, really appreciated that. And that's why I feel so connected with you. And it's just more of a like I'm in debt with you, yeah, because you really broke it down, and that was really personally special to me. So what would have done differently? It's not really what I would have done differently. It's just I wish I would have been more exposed to people that knew the passion and the dedication that I had,
Mm.
and they would have guided me better because I feel like I would have gotten it sooner if people knew what was my end goal. But that's not to say that I didn't have the support. Is just that I didn't even know how difficult this FE is. So what would have done differently? I would have probably went to the Grove School of Engineering, Pratt Institute, Maritime College, Manhattan College. Those are engineering schools that it's for that. So but you can't want something that you don't know you want.
Mm.
So it's a catch-22 in my eyes.
Mm. Yeah, and I think also like when you were talking a little bit about your experience, I think also mental. There was a voice in your head probably telling you like, "This is too hard. This is too challenging. I don't think we can do this." I don't know if you had that
Oh
self
yeah.
doubt in yourself, and so I think when the professor made that comment, it's kind of like almost was like agreeing with that voice that you had in your head about all that self-doubt. So I think that might have had an effect as well.
So when the professor made that comment, it didn't hit me at that point. To me, it's just I know my role. I accepted that. Like, okay, clearly this is something that I should have learned in high school and I didn't.
Mm.
And I was okay with it. It was more in the after, like in my career, where uh, just to be, nice. There were doubts of, "Philip, you can't do it. You didn't even go to engineering school." So it's like, but I'm the type of guy that you can't tell me I can't do it, because if it's possible, I'm going to do it. So that ignited, you know, the passion and the tenacity within me to, like, I'm going to show you. So what
Mm.
started as a, oh, I'll show you, turned into my legit passion. And I loved doing these problems. Like, I could literally answer more than 90% of the questions in civil and mechanical, in the mechanical and civil FE, but I just can't be timed. So that was the most frustrating part. It was like, what? So that was really the voice in my head, is just like, you can't, you could do it, but you can't, for other reasons. And I think that's even worse, because I know I could do it. And it's just something as stupid as like being timed. And I always made the joke of, an engineer needs to take their time to really make sure that what they're producing and that what they're approving, it's good. You can't, it should not be timed. But obviously that's just my thought. But many times, and then personal life got involved as well, and I need to like stop studying for a couple of months. Then the pandemic hit, so that was huge. And also I went for my master's, because in the end of the day, this FE, it didn't give me more money. It just gave me more legitimacy, for lack of better words. Um, a- 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 I always had to focus on my job first. So my job was number one. Then, like, my personal life, and just, there's always going to be like my mother's birthday, Mother's Day. Like, oh, okay, of course I have to. And it killed me. That mental challenge, that was harder than the voices, because it's like, I sometimes I said, I wish people could just leave me alone. Leave me alone for 3 months. Because this FE exam is a momentum exam. That's what I noticed. I need to be in that momentum, like study, take tests, practice questions. You do the mathematics, then you do the ethics, then you do the engineer economics, then you do this, blah, blah, blah. And by the time you reach to the end, you need to do that all over again, to like, because you're gonna forget. So you're not really gonna forget. It's just that that information is dorming inside of your head. You need to tap it, and everything needs to be fresh at one specific time, which in this case is the actual test. So my problem was the mental stress of the social constraint that I had. And that was the hardest. And that was the voice. Like, well, you could, but your job is first. Oh, you could, and this. And it took a toll on me. But as you already know of me, there's no way I'm gonna quit. And I've sacrificed so much to get to where I'm at right now. So that was really the push. And it was hard. It was hard. But my advice to the people seeing this, hearing this, is that if it's possible and it has been done before, then why not you? And that's really what pushed me the whole time.
Wow. Okay. So the thing that was most challenging for you is just like balancing your life, pretty much balancing
Mhm,
everything that was going on. So your work is demanding. I remember you were telling me about that.
mhm.
You put in a lot of hours, and doesn't leave you much of time to study. And then there's also family commitments and all that. And so you really struggled with finding that balance. Um, did you ever find it at the end? Were you able to find that balance, or?
I wish I could give you a great happy ending, but life goes on, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
They don't care about life doesn't care about your feelings. Um, what I would say is that having a positive mentality, um, sharing the struggles to close ones. So, like for example, my parents, my parents, and others is, you know, they knew it. So some at some aspect, I wasn't involved. Like, oh, don't go, Felipe. You know, he's studying, he's studying, he's studying. And it got to a point where you know, people were questioning. People that supported me was questioning. Be like, "Oh, you've been studying for 3 years. You still haven't passed the test." Or like, "You have no idea how hard this test is." And then I didn't want to seem like I'm handicapped or anything like that. So you know, I consider myself like a alpha male. So I was just like, "Oh, I'll show you. I'm going to do it." But 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 deep down, it was the balance of the personal life and work, and then the mental health was hard. There were nights where I would literally break night. I would go home just to shower, just to go back to work because I was studying all night. And I shared this with you before, and obviously it's not healthy. Um, I'm pretty sure there is a process for it. I didn't find it, but that's not to demotivate or not encourage anyone. It's more of it's completely different with me from what I've seen. Um, but the joy after when you finally got it, when I finally got it, it's amazing. I think I took like almost a month and a half, maybe 2 months of just like, yes, yeah, and it's such a good feeling just to look back and people affirming me to me that like, wow, you like my boss, he told me like, out of how you taught yourself fluid mechanics, and I'm like, "Oh, I did. It was hard, and I would just say that it's the FE. If you're coming from my perspective, or maybe from someone who has been out of school for a long time, the FE is a momentum test. Like you need to take the test like if it's a practice test. And the only way you could do that is if you take multiple time and then the moment that that momentum is disrupted, that's where the glitch happens. And that was my struggle. I had to, so I remember in December, I took almost 2 weeks off because I just straight studying. I went to Pennsylvania and, you know, I did everything that I had to do. And then unfortunately, my ID was expired. So I was disappointed at that time. And I was ready to take that test. The last time I passed it, and I know we're going to get to that in details later. I it was the least prepared that I was because I already took almost half of my vacation days for that one time in December to pass the test.
Mm.
So it was very difficult. Um, I know that there's an answer to it. I didn't find it, and I took the really difficult way. And but I will have to say that the reward is totally worth it, at least for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I think everybody's schedule is different, and then also everybody's mindset is different. And then I think also what made it more challenging for you going back to the fact that you didn't go to engineering school. And I think that's another layer of like challenge and difficulty because you had to literally teach yourself all those subjects. But for most engineers, they probably just refresh their memory or relearn what they already learned, which is, I think, easier than having to learn something from the beginning and teach yourself, literally teach yourself, like you said, even like calculus earlier, you mentioned that you didn't even take that in high school. So you had to teach yourself everything. Um, And so I think adding that plus everything that was going on in your life and you really wanting to get there, I think that added a little bit of a pressure, and then it was hard for you to find that
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
Um,
The pandemic also was a huge factor to it. I
yeah.
started this journey pre-pandemic, and then boom, and then just for the audience to know, I'm the director of energy management and engineering for the Mount Sinai Health System. So it when the pandemic hit, there was no studying, and
Right.
my only study time, because there was a moment where New York City was shut down, and they placed us in like hotels to be nearby, and
Oh wow.
yeah, so I'll be working for whatever hours is needed. I will go to the hotel nearby and I would study. But that even if I wanted time during work, just to go in a conference room during my break or something like that, there wasn't any. It was only like 1 or 2 hours, and it was don't. I kept on saying to myself, and this comes back to the voices, right, and the
Hmm.
mental strain. I didn't want to use the pandemic as an excuse of why I didn't get it done. So anytime, any free time that I had was work and then study. And it sucks, but I do have a huge team. We're in the management sphere in Mount Sinai. Me calling out sick, it's like, does the CEO call out sick? Does the president call out sick? No. So we're in that realm where it's not calling out sick. Like the buck stops with you, and that made it difficult. But yeah.
Yeah. So you do have a lot of responsibilities at your job, which makes it harder for you to keep that momentum that you were talking about earlier. And I
Right.
agree. Studying for the FE does require to have that momentum, to keep going. And then once you break it, I've had so many people, so many students that would take like 2 weeks off or a week off from studying because there was like a wedding event, or there's something in their lives, and then that 2 weeks becomes 3 weeks, and it becomes 4 weeks, and then they would shoot us an email and they go like, I haven't studied for like 2 months, what should I do? Like, because at that point you're like, what do I start from the beginning? Do I pick up where I left off? But then I forgot the stuff that I studied, and like you said, it's so much material, and you gotta I really liked how you said it earlier. You got to study those 3 months, and then once you're done, you got to go back to it because you probably forgot a lot of the concepts by the time you finish studying the whole thing.
Hmm.
And you got to keep doing it until you actually take your exam, or else you're gonna forget the material. Um, it is challenging, and I think most people would actually relate to that. A lot of times when I interview students, they have work commitments, families, right, kids. For you, I think your job, it takes a lot of your time, and people really struggle with that, finding that balance. Like, how do I study, not break that momentum, but then at the same time, gotta make sure that I go to work and I have responsibilities, and then spend time with my family and my kids and my wife, and so it's a lot to handle.
Hmm.
um okay, let's go back to when you first started studying for this test. I want to know, how did you learn all the engineering concepts? Given your background, you've never learned engineering. You've never seen, like, fluid mechanics problems, statics, a beam, a roller, right? Just the smallest things. You're like, Pauli, what the heck is this? Why is this like a round circle here, right? um when you first were looking at those concepts, how did you learn it? How did you teach yourself?
You're right. Yeah. And before I forget, I just want to mention, and I know you're gonna write this down so you can remind me later on. I switched from mechanical to civil because of
Yeah.
you, and so
Hmm.
that has a huge factor on my success as well. And I'll explain that more.
Okay.
So the morning side, right? The morning, the afternoon. Uh, so the very first thing I did was, okay, what is this exam that I need to pass? The goal was to become a professional engineer, right? And I'm happy to say that I'm in the process of getting approved by the New York State Board to take the exam. So that's very good. Hopefully by December, that's my goal. in HVAC and mechanical design. No, HVAC and refrigeration. But the first thing I did is, what do I need to do to take the PE exam? And then that's when I found out, oh, I gotta take the FE exam. And so
Mhm.
what do I need to do to take the FE exam? And I saw the categories. So it's mathematics. So what's in mathematics? And then I saw back then, because I was going to take mechanical FE. It was like um linear equations, derivatives, calculus. It was, so I said, okay, so that's 10 questions. So let me study that. And that was when the eye opener happened. I was like, oof, this is pretty tough because I understand it, but there's different, ways you could get tricked with this. But I wasn't scared. And I said, all right, it is what it is. This is what I need to do. And then the ethics was always easy. So I took it. So the answer to your question is, I took it a step at a time. So a category at a time, a section at a time. There you go, a section at a time. And I said to myself, I want to master this to then go to the next section. And once I kind of understood the concept, then I went to the next section and then the next one. Then when I got to the statics part, what really drove me, I would say, is inner passion, if that even makes sense.
Mm.
So it needs to be in you to want to be an engineer. So I never found it boring. I found it annoying. And like, "Oh, I get it, but now this question, and I forgot one little coefficient or something like that." And that was the most annoying part because I understand the concept. I understand, yeah, like, and I always share this with my friends and family. They're like, oh, this water bottle is on the table and needs this much force. And I explained the whole concept behind it. And it sounds smart. I understand it, but it's just like the small bits and pieces of it, like the coefficient of static friction, or it was the most annoying part. Um, so I would say I took a step at a time. I enjoyed learning during this time when I started to enjoy it. Because at first it was just, I need to do it, so I got to do whatever I need to do to get it done. But then it transformed into, hey, I really enjoy this. And I was helping people out passing the FE themselves, and some of them passed the FE before me. And I'm like, this is a little bit poetic, or injustice poetic. I helped somebody pass their FE and I can't even pass it myself. But I enjoy the concept. So I would say that was a big driver and a big help. Um, and I'll be the Debbie Downer here. If you don't enjoy what you're learning, it's gonna be much harder. So I enjoyed it. So I took it a section at a time.
Okay.
A lot of Googling, a lot of um, self notes, a lot of materials that I put together so then I could understand it the way how I understood it. There were times where I would see a YouTube video or something like that, and they would say something. I'm like, but wait, what does that really mean? So I would have to go to the level one to really understand it. And then finally, I'm the type of guy that go down a rabbit hole, and I'm like, but why and why and why and why? And that kind of helped me out, but that also, I don't want to say wasted time, but I didn't need to go down that rabbit hole. But I did, and it did help me. So section at a time, and have the passion for it, I would say.
And asking why, I really like that one, because when
Yeah,
you start asking why is this, why are we using this equation, why this coefficient, you start really understanding those concepts. And then
yep,
now, if you presented a different type of problem, you'll be able to tackle it still because you have that deep understanding of the fundamentals.
the foundation. Yeah,
But it could be really tricky when you go, like you said, it could be a good thing and a bad thing, because you could get stuck in a problem for 2 or 3 hours just trying to figure out that why.
yep,
But at the end it is worth it, because like you said, I think the biggest one too, because you were learning for yourself. I don't think you were necessarily focused on just passing this test. You wanted to become a professional engineer, you wanted to understand these concepts, you wanted to learn them. And so I think that also helped you to focus on that. Um, okay.
Yeah.
So
I want to add one more thing to the answer too. That
go for it.
the last thing I wanted, or n- to come out of this, is that, oh, Felipe just passed the test just to pass it, and now it. No, I want you to challenge me. I want you to ask me the questions because I'm going to show you that I know it, and I'll teach you something, if anything. So that was another big driver too, because I understood how to get the answer, um, but I didn't want to be challenged on the authenticity that I was bringing over. So that was another reason why I went down like many rabbit holes.
Mm, okay, okay, makes sense. Okay, so going back to the point you mentioned that you took mechanical and then civil. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you took the FE exam 8 times total. Is that correct? So the last time you passed was your eighth time. Is that correct? Okay.
That is
Um,
correct.
so
Nobody
tell
knows this, so this is breaking news to everybody that's gonna see
Oh,
it.
really? Okay. Okay. Are you not comfortable? We could
No, no,
totally
no,
not
no,
share it. Okay.
no.
Okay.
It's a good story, but
Okay.
it's,
All
yeah.
right. Um, all right. Just tell us a little bit about that. So, you took it 8 times. How many of that was mechanical? How many of that was civil? When did you switch to civil? I think you passed civil on your first try, didn't you?
No.
No? Okay.
So
Okay.
I
So go ahead and
I
tell us the story.
so I didn't even tell you everything, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that this makes it good.
Yeah.
So I actually took passed my civil on my third try.
Okay. Okay.
I took mechanical 5 times.
Okay.
So it's funny because the windows that you're able to take the test is it's very strict. So you can only
Mhm.
take it once a quarter, but no more than three. Well, four. You could take
Three
it three
times.
quarters in a row, and then you can't take it anymore. And then so in the
Right.
beginning, in the very beginning, I said, let me just take the test. So I don't really count the first couple of times because I just wanted to see. I mean, first of all, I was ecstatic and blown that I was approved to take the exam because I knew how hard it was, and it took me like about almost 6 months, scared to
Mm,
say even 8 months to like get approval from
okay.
this New York State. Um, so once they said, "Be like, all right, you're allowed to take it," I signed up right away. I knew I was going to fail, but I wanted to see it, I wanted to feel it, and that's kind of my MO. Sometimes, some people think differently that you should not be taking a test but I feel like you need to put yourself through the official testing regimens in order to really understand. So the first couple of times I took it, and I that's when I saw how they graded and compared to the people that passed. It was so confusing, and it's still confusing. But I think I kind of got it down packed now. uh, so it was in January. I remember 2020. I think. Yeah, probably. I forgot when it was. I'm sorry, but then it was January, and then February, March. So April I took it again, and then May, June, and then July or August I took it again. Um, and then they gave me a big stop sign until the following January. I'm like, whoa, whoa, what's this about? So I was confused. I didn't know. I didn't have any guidance.
Mm,
So I'm just going around with it. And then that was the moment after the third time I said like, there's specific times, and I know that the PE back then when it was um, pa- um, paper and pencil, you can only take the FE mechanical, no, the PE mechanical twice a year,
mm-hmm.
either in March and in October, something like that. So I said, like, I really gotta get my things together. After the third time, that's when I said, like, this is a real test. This is the FE is. I'm scared to say the hardest test I ever taken in my life, and I already told you why because I self-taught, but I, I try to see understand like what are the questions that they were asking. Hmm. um Thermodynamics was extremely hard, but crazily, I love it. I enjoy throwing. I understand the concept and everything, but excuse me. But when you have that time constraint and you're taking 20, 30 minutes to solve a problem, you know that the worst part is when you know you can answer the question if you have the right amount of time. But in the FE, you do not have time. I'm sorry. So after the third time, I think that was around the time where I got more involved with you, and I took it again where I was very confident and I failed. And then I had it scheduled for the fifth time. And then that's when you gave me the guidance. So like, Felipe, why don't you try civil? So I was a little bit scared to do that, but obviously I trust you. You know, like there's a reason why you're saying it, and I ran with it. But the hardest part was kind of like letting go the things that I already taught myself, and I spent
Mm,
so much time teaching myself thermodynamics, heat transfer, controls, instrumentation, mechanical design. All that is there's hard stuff, but I do that at work. Like identifying which coils to use and the heat transfer behind it. So when you gave me that insight, I said, well, let me see what is the afternoon part for civil. And again, it goes back to the passion that I was telling you about. So I saw one of the category was like transportation and traffic or something, right? So I was like, "Well, this is interesting. Now I know why the red light takes so long, or the curvature and all that good stuff." And then the last category in civil is construction documents. That one is the I answered all 10 questions, whatever it is, within 2 minutes because I love it. That's what I do.
mm,
The hardest part was, I guess, geotechnical,
mm-hmm.
right? Soil and all that.
Yeah.
So that's completely, that's like the thermodynamics for civil.
Mm,
It is,
okay.
yeah. And because it's very specific and it's very dedicated to civil. So that was a challenge. So when you told me about it, I took I still took my mechanical, like, well, let me just take the mechanical real quick, bro. So I kind of did that behind your back.
Yeah.
uh, so then I was like, God damn it, I failed again. I was so close. And I was, I got, I've gotten good at understanding how many questions I've got wrong
Mm,
in a certain section because based on the performance, like I would get I'm sorry, a 10 or 11, but then I'm below average. 10 or 11, that's pretty good. Anything in the double digits is pretty good, but I'm below average. So to me, it was like those questions that you got wrong, you overthought it, and it's very simple because you got below average. So if there was, I don't know, 8 questions and I got 5 or 6 right, but I'm below average, that means that the average person that passed got,
mm,
it's either 7 or 8 right. So that helped me understand you overthought questions. The FE is a test that it's really not meant to trick you, to be honest. I noticed. That's what I
yeah.
noticed.
Yeah.
It's meant to identify quickly. And then when I talk about how I passed the last exam the last time, it it still blows my mind thinking about it because well, I'll get to that later. So I that's when I switched over to civil. And the first time, the same MO, like, let me just take it, just see how it is,
Yeah.
and I failed. And then the second time, I was pretty confident, and it was very disappointing. It was one of the most disappointing one. Those two tests out of the 8, I'm like, wow, really had a good feeling, and it was
Mm,
sad. And then this last one, everything just went wrong. I left my calculator in my dad's car. I I started late. I got to the test center late. I had to call out sick. I broke night the day before. So this one, I was not expecting it. Uh, but again, about the momentum, I answer questions without even reading some of the questions, to be honest. Like in the ethics, I will read the answers. That was my strategy. I wrote down a whole strategy of how to go about certain questions. And like with ethics, I there was a point where it's like your whole paragraph. I like just read the answers because
Mm,
most likely it's going to be the right answer from just the choices. So it was a journey, and I really enjoyed switching over because it wasn't that much of a big switch. I don't want to like, like diminish the prestigious of the civil compared to mechanical, but um it's smoother. It's much smoother because, for example, water resources and environmental, right? That's
mm-hmm,
just an extension of fluid mechanics.
mm-hmm,
So it was exciting, like, oh, perfect. So I got all these questions right too. And then, construction documents, that's perfect. So I didn't know. And it goes back to what I was saying about the guidance. Have I not had that guidance from you, I wouldn't have even thought about that. Like
mm,
civil, I'm not a civil engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer. But again, this is the fundamentals of engineering, and the PE is where you really choose your area of expertise. So that was good, and that's why I owe you so much. Because
wow,
I would have never like even think about that to switch over. And I have friends that took other disciplines, and they chose that only because they think that's easier.
mm-hmm,
So, and my advice to them and to the audience, everyone else, is that don't choose something that's easier, because what's easier for you is not easier for someone else. Choose something that you enjoy learning. So I enjoyed learning the civil part, and a few friends, they bust my chops and say like, "Oh, so you're a civil engineer? You're not a mechanic?" Like, all right, big fella, come on. But I love it. It's now I have that in my brain dorming, and in the end of the day, I am going for the HVAC and refrigeration PE because that is my
mm-hmm.
job on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, first of all, you got your FE. So in when you get your license, I'm not sure if you got it yet, but when you get your license, I don't think it says which FE you took.
No,
So it just
it
says you have
doesn't. Hmm.
EIT. That's the first thing. Second, when you decide to when you take your PE mechanical and you pass it, if you want to take PE civil, you can. I
That's
actually
true.
learned about that. You can, so you could be double engineer, civil and
Yeah.
mechanical. Um, Going back to thermodynamics, so as you know, and that because we've been talking, and I told you I'm currently working on the course for mechanical, the afternoon course, which we're gonna launch soon.
Mhm.
We're gonna launch half of it, and so I started with thermodynamics, and then I did heat transfer, and I have to tell you, thermodynamics is so long. It did not want to end. It's such a long section. It has so much information that you guys needed to learn. I was like, because I thought all the subjects in civil engineering, right? Obviously, like structures and water resource, and nothing comes close to thermodynamics. It's such a huge section. And it's a lot for
Yeah.
students to learn all of those concepts and all those problems. Once you learn the concepts, the problems are not that difficult, but it's just like having all that information in your brain is a lot.
Yeah.
So I did notice that when I was filming and teaching the thermodynamics for the mechanical course. So just wanted to share that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was an interesting subject. So it just didn't want to end.
Yeah.
um
And it's a big bulk of the
it
FE
is.
too. It's like about 15 questions or something like that.
Yep, you guys get so many questions on that subject. It is, and that's why I decided to start with that first. Heat transfer was pretty good, was fun, small section. Most of it just equations and stuff. That was pretty easy. But thermodynamics was an interesting subject, and I
Yeah.
also learned it in college too. So I learned heat transfer. I never took in college, but I learned it in college, and still I found it very interesting topic and long, specifically just long, a lot of information in it.
Yeah. And,
Now,
and and it's very deceiving too, because it's like, oh, heat transfer, conduction, convection, radiation. Like, oh, okay, obviously we know the difference of them, but it's it's not as easy as it's being painted. So uh, that's that's the little tricky part, I would say.
yeah, yeah, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, say
I
that again.
stopped. No, that was the tricky part, that we know about the three ways, and that's not how it really is painted.
Right.
I'm breaking up.
No, it's good. Now it's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Now going back to switching. So I usually, so the way we get this a lot, people would email us, which discipline should I take? Which FE should I take? And I always ask two questions. Which engineering field you work in and which PE are you planning to take? And so based on those things, you can decide which FE you want to take. Um, and for you, I think I maybe we never had this conversation, but you might have wanted to do other disciplines, and I think I pushed you to do mechanical just because it's more related to the PE. I don't know if we had that conversation. I don't know, but I would have never suggested that you go for civil from day one. And the reason why I was like, you know what, take FE civil, because I don't have a course for mechanical for the afternoon course. I didn't
Mhm.
have it then yet. And then I was like, Philip, he doesn't have a background in engineering, as we already talked about. And he's like maybe like not getting the right information or right concepts from the mechanical section. And I was like, I have a full course for civil. I feel like this could help. And also
Mhm.
I had a couple students who have no engineering background and passed FE civil. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just text Philip and be like, why don't you try FE Civil? So that was the reason why I suggested that you take FE Civil. And the reason I wanted to clarify that, because if, for those of you guys who are watching this, if you are planning to take PE mechanical, I would stick to FE mechanical, because it does, it is going to help you. But for your situation, because I didn't have the mechanical course then, that's why I suggested that you took civil. And I'm glad you did, because now you actually passed your FE, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and I just want to add that again, it's not to diminish the FE or mechanical or civil or any other disciplines or any other ones. It's more of it, because when it came to the FE mechanical, I, I enjoyed it. I I understood it. It's just the time. So this is
mm,
all a big game. I know a lot of people that are taking FE other disciplines, but they're mechanical, but they avoid the whole mechanical aspect because
mm,
it's hard. Thermodynamics is very hard, and even heat transfer, it's very tricky and hard. So the choice of going to civil is not really because it's like a safer choice or easier choice. Other discipline might be easier. Civil might be easier. Thermodynamics, electrical might be easier. I know electrical engineers that they took, FE electric, the electrical one. It's more of like what gets you past that threshold, because again, we need to remind ourselves this is the fundamentals of engineering. This is the basic, and then you choose your expertise, your level of expertise. So, in a sense, all of the FE exams are equally important, are equally prestige, are equally, it has the same equal value. It just happened that I enjoyed civil a little bit more, so and I could answer it much quicker, and that's
mm,
the key, because you know I feel like I'm pretty good at thermodynamics and heat transfer and mechanical design, but not to the stance of, or to the level to answer everything within what 5.5 hours or whatever. You got to find what's the best fit for you at that moment. So that I just want to say that.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about resources. So can you tell us which resources did you use to prepare for your FE exam?
Okay. You still see me? I feel like there was a little glitch.
Yeah, there's a little bit of what about, let's
There
see,
is,
what
right?
about now? I think now it's better. Okay,
Now
now
it's
you're
better.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
let me ask that question again. This is why we do a lot of editing afterwards and
No, no,
stuff.
I imagine. Yeah.
um Now let's dive into resources. So can you tell us a little bit about the resources that you used? I know you probably used a lot of resources to get here, you know, especially because you started with mechanical and then you went back to civil. So tell us a little bit about that.
So the majority of my resources honestly came from you. So
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
But initially, I did use the School of PE as my first basic go-to resource.
Mm,
So that was very expensive. I know money always come plays a big role in your in one's journey. I'm lucky enough to be able to afford. So I was always the type of person that is like, hey, this is an investment to myself. It's
mm,
not a loss. It's not an expense. It's an investment. So I joined the School of PE. That was very expensive. I didn't. Uh, you know, some people seek reimbursement stuff like. No, this is an investment for myself. I found a couple other things. I bought every single practice exam and books from NCES, right?
yep.
I also, uh, after having proper guidance from certain people, one of them obviously is you, uh, I bought like the Baron's book for
Mhm.
FE. So that really helped me because one thing that helped me a lot is reading the same thing, but in a different version.
Mm,
So I will read something, let's say derivatives or whatever, right? Um, okay, I get it. And then I will read it again in a different format, I guess, or a different
yep.
wording, and you will find the basic, uh, like, like, like the common denominator for all of them. And like, all right, so clearly this is the same here. They say a little bit of this, and here they say a little bit of that, but it's the exposure of different ways of um, uh, of the concept being explained. So Barron's was a good one. Um, what's this famous book everybody uses for the FE? You
Is
told
it
me. Yeah, there you
Linderberg?
go. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I found anything that I did not have, I bought it at Amazon and I got it for myself. Um, uh, so yeah, so just a lot of practice questions as well. Reddit for some reason is pretty good, pretty useful as well. And there was this other website that was free. I forgot. I'll text it to you on the side. I'll
Okay.
look it back up. But it's it was a full blown course, and but again, it's it is different. It's the same thing but different, if that even makes
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
So that helped, and I will answer it, and I'll grade myself, and then I'll go about. One thing I did do that really was very helpful was like I would take like a full blown test, but not of all the sections. I'll take a full test of just mathematics, for example,
Mm,
just ethics. So it's just I keep on seeing the repetitive questions over and over again, and that kind of helped me mentally and with the confidence to answer these questions because like oh yeah this always shows up so Morse circle always is going to show up so you got to make sure you know Morse because it's 100% guaranteed out of the 8 exams they it was always there.
mhm.
Like static friction, it was always there. So you're like, I already know this, and this is the guidance that I gave to myself. So make sure you know everything of it. So I just kept on putting, and then I would accumulate all the questions from all different areas that I would see, put it in a Word document, and then I will answer it. So and then I will forget the answers to be honest. So I'll just take that test again. So that helped.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So you said School of PE, Linderbrook book,
Ba- Barons.
Baron's
Uh-huh.
book. Um, any other things that
And
you?
yeah, your
Oh,
course, your
yeah,
YouTube.
my
uh,
the
and,
accelerator course for the
yes,
civil portion. Okay,
yes.
and then any other
And
resources that
then
you use?
and then the website, and then the website I forgot off the top of my
Okay,
head, but it's a
okay,
it's a university that they actually just gives it out. Oh,
okay.
um, uh, so I might be shouting them out, but the University of Texas, there was a professor, Dr. Hansen. So I reached out to him as well,
Oh, cool.
and he's super nice and cool. And I told him my story. I um I presented for COVID a COVID webinar for him and his students of the ventilation for engineering. So he really helped me out as well. He helped me out a little bit more on the statics and but it's the same thing, like for example what you had, but it's always to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That really helped. And yeah, so yeah,
Okay.
so he was good too.
Yeah, yeah, he has a great channel. I think he does videos on statics and
Yeah, yeah,
dynamics, I believe.
yeah. Uh-huh.
He's a great professor. I've came across his
Yeah,
videos a couple times.
yeah. Because
That's awesome.
he's
Yeah,
excited, the
yeah,
passion.
yeah, exactly. It goes back to that passion that you were mentioning earlier. So I'll go ahead and link all those channels and also the university. Once you send it to me, I'll link it in the description below for people to check that out. Um, so what you try to do really, and it's interesting because I actually interviewed someone right before you, and he was in accounting major, and he also passed his FE exam, FE civil, and I interviewed him. So we're probably gonna post it separately, but I interviewed him same day, and we were just talking about this, how like exposing yourself to so many different problems and just seeing how those concepts are being applied and how the questions could be rewarded differently, but it's the same question asked,
Hmm.
it's the same question but it's just asked differently. And I think that's really important. And I also mentioned to him that when I was in college, that's what I did. I did pretty well in a lot of my engineering classes because I exposed myself to so many different type of problems. I would go to the library and then I would look at the end chapter problems, right, and just do every single problem. And every problem is going to be different, and just learning those concepts and seeing how they're being applied and doing so many different problems, it really helps you process
Hmm.
those concepts faster, and then seeing how it's being applied can be
Yeah.
very helpful. So
And
I
it builds the momentum, and
yeah.
that's really the drive here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right, awesome. Okay, so it seems like you use a lot of resources. Now let me see. So from our like just our courses, what were some of the things that you really liked about our courses, and how and which what of some of the things that you felt like you really helped you pass your FE exam?
Yeah. So in your course, so in the very beginning, you were, from what I remember, maybe you already had your website up, but it was just YouTube channels. So I liked that you broke it down to the very basic, the very absolute basic, and you will keep on repeating that. And I think that's essential in like the success of passing the FE. Is just keep on reminding yourself of the basic, if there's acronyms or initials or anything like that, you will say it out loud, and something very simple. So that really helped out because it helped with the, how can I say, with the encouragement, I guess.
Mm,
It's just like, hey, so just so you know, blah blah blah, and then you will explain it real quickly on the side. Then that's when I noticed, I guess you introduce your courses, and it's just again the repetition and the excess amount of questions that really helped out. Because if you do just one course, or one section in your course, you probably have like 50 questions on one of them. you could literally restart it all again,
Mhm.
and you're probably still going to get questions wrong. So
Right.
why? And then having the amount of questions that you have per section really helped, because if I would do another question again and I got it wrong, let's say for the second or third time, that helped me identify where my weaknesses were. Um, and that helped me a lot. So that was a big part of it. Separating them, explaining obviously the explanation of like just introducing the question and then the answer. That's
Mm.
genius.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool. Uh, and it's just the fact that you kept on always going back to the basic. You're like, oh, I remember this and that. That's good. I know that the big struggle is just that they kept on changing the reference book, so that
Mm.
kind of sucks. Um, but yeah, but no, but it's an inconvenience,
Right.
but it's not a do or die. So that was
Yeah.
good.
Okay, awesome. And what are some of the things that you felt that slowed you down and you don't recommend students doing?
That's a good question. Quick answer would be limit the amount of rabbit holes you go down, because there's some that if you can't answer a question and you already hit like almost 20 minutes, 30 minutes, let it go. Let go of your ego, uh, at least for myself. Because I would say to her, like, no, 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 I know it. I know it. It's like, this and that, especially if it's a question that I already answered and I just forgot. And then once you see the answer and the explanation, we're like, oh my God. So that was a big waste of time. Uh, I would say I'll flip the question and say what would help accelerate and not waste time, if it's okay.
Go for it. I love
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
I would say, um, if you feel like a little, lack of better words, like down, like "Ah, just got all these questions wrong, have some questions on the side that you know you're going to answer, or let's say if you're fatigued out and you're just tired, and but you know like "Ah, I need to study because test is in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever. You don't want to waste time. Have either a certain section or certain questions that you could just go to that would just build that momentum back up. So to me it was mathematics and ethics and engineering economics, so I'll just
Mhm.
bang those out right away, and then now I'm excited, like, oof, I got like the last 20 questions right, and then go back to the ones that you're having difficulty, because that will help you out. So don't get stuck on a question. It's okay to get stuck, but pause it and build your motivation and your momentum up with questions that you know you're gonna have to study anyways, regardless. It's not that you're cheating because you know the answer, but you're just getting the engine going again, to the level that you need to answer the very tough questions. So I would say have a bank of questions or maybe a section that you're confident, because it's always a good feeling, even though you don't know the results when you pass. But if you fail, unfortunately, you will see how well you did. And it's kind of a good feeling when you see that 15, and like, oof, that means I got all the questions right. And,
Mhm.
and it's good. It just that excitement helps you prepare for you to take the test again.
Yeah. It's like when you get so many problems wrong, your confidence starts to go low.
Right.
Starts to go down, and doing some problems that is going to help you raise that confidence again, so that you can tackle those problems again with a better um mindset, or
Hmm.
just you're in a better space, right?
Hmm.
Versus like you going into those problems feeling down, you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm never gonna pass this
Yeah.
exam, this is hard, I'm getting, building your confidence a little bit. I like that. That's a
Mhm.
really good one. um okay, so on your last attempt, how many months did you study for the FE?
On
Do
my
you
last
remember?
attempt, okay, so I passed it June 30th. I will never forget that day.
That's awesome.
And I um I don't know if I took it because that's June 30th. So I don't know. I think I took it sometime in January or something. I really forgot, but it wasn't like more than 6 months. It was within the window. I know I attempted to take the test on December 30th, and that's when my ID was expired. And the guy said, "Oh, you got expired ID. You can't take the exam." And I was very disappointed. I know I probably took the test January, February, maybe March, I think. Um, I forgot, but uh, when I passed the test on June 30th. Again, I could have taken a lot of days off from work. A lot of things were going on. Since then, since 2021, I got a promotion, so I had to like prove myself, so to speak. So that took a lot of time. Um, I will say, I gave myself not a schedule, but like a goal to always answer like at least one question a day,
Mm,
even if it's an ethics question or a conceptual question, to keep that momentum going. So that helped. So I don't really have how long did you study when you actually passed the test? Because this was a 3 year journey. I was always studying. It's just a matter of like, was I studying and breaking night, and then just or answering one question a day? It was it was always there. So yeah. So I think that answered the question, right?
yeah, yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. It was like a 3-year journey of you trying to, whatever you can, whenever you can study, you squeeze in that 1 hour or that one problem, and you just try to keep that momentum going,
Yeah.
unless if life happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes total sense. And I think also you passing the FE has to do a lot with all that knowledge that you learned the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
That helped you get there, that helped you pass your FE exam. It wasn't just about those last 3 months or 4 months
Yeah.
that you spent studying. It was all that 3 years that you spent learning all this material that helped you get to this point. So
Hmm.
it makes total sense. The day of your exam, you went in. You mentioned earlier that you left your calculator. It was, you got in there. You were probably stressed. You were late. The exam starts. How did that go? How did you feel?
Are you ready for this answer?
Go for it.
So the day of my exam was a Friday, June 30th. I broke night, which I don't recommend. That's just how my thick skin and my blood, because breaking night and not sleeping, sleep is very good. You know, I don't want to sound horrible, but I gained pounds studying for this test. But in my eyes, it's like, all right, then I'll get back to the gym. So the health aspect was very difficult. And literally the day of the exam is not even a good example. So I'm definitely an outlier. But I broke night that night. I was gonna go to work. I was planning on going to work because I had a 11:30 exam in Midtown.
Hmm.
And then I said, yeah, I specifically chose 11:30 because I either wanted to rest or just like not study before so I could be like stress free. And everything just went down the hole like around 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, where I just didn't feel it. And I was frustrated because I don't want to cancel it because it's June 30th. So that's the second quadrant, right? The second
Mm,
quarter. So for March, April, May, June 30th,
right.
the last day of that quarter. So I had in my mind, if I fail for whatever reason, I could at least take it the very next week or 2 weeks later
Mm-hmm.
because I want to build that momentum. I knew I was going to pass, if not now, in July. Because if I didn't, then I will have to wait until January. So yeah, I did take it in March. Anyways, um, then I hate using the sick day and stuff, because of my position, but I use a sick day, and then because I want to keep on studying and like everything what I planned did not go according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then I also called my dad because I didn't want to drive for parking reasons and all that stuff. I said, "Hey, Bobby, can you drive me to Midtown?" And like, sure. So so here it is. So he decides to drive me, and he, whatever reason, everybody was driving crazy that day. So it was like, oh my God. Wow. So he's, jerking the car, and I'm studying in the car still, but it's not really studying. It's more like reviewing. Like, okay, this is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do when I get to the test. I'm going to write down the formulas. I'm going to do this, right? Like the prep before the game. But I couldn't do that because that was just driving. My, I remember my papers fell on the floor. And then eventually my calculator fell on the floor. My
Mm,
dad, traffic was in the way. I got there. So I already know that you have a 30-minute um
window.
threshold. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't, I could take the test before 12 if my test is 11:30. So I got there at like 11:40. I'm rushing my bag into the building. The concierge or the security officer there was giving me a hard time, but like, oh, where's your ID? Your ID? Yeah, it's just I'm going upstairs, and then he gave me the wrong floor, and then I said, "You sure? I'm pretty sure. All right, whatever. You work in this building." He gave me the wrong floor. I came back down. Then he gave me the right floor. I went back up. When I got there, I realized I don't have my calculator. I'm already late. And I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm gonna pass this exam without my calculator. There's no way. So I called my dad. I'm like, Bobby, I need you to come over here right now. Like, oh my God, I'm already in 80th Street. I'm like, I don't care if you're in Mars. I need you right now. So he was very mad that he had to go back. But then I told the guy, hey, can I buy a calculator off of you? Can I give me a time to go down to Staples or something like that? So I was panicking. So at this point, I'm like, oh my God. Then um I said, "Hey, my dad's gonna come, and I'm gonna go downstairs to pick up my calculator." He gave me the hard time, saying like, "You can't leave. Once you leave, you can't come back." I'm like, "Well, what happens if I
Right.
gotta use the bathroom?" I'm like, "Well, you could go use the bathroom." Like, but the bathroom's outside. So I was like, "Okay, so I'm gonna use the bathroom in 15 minutes." Okay, so it was so
Then,
horrible, horrible. Like, if there was one out of the 8 times that I knew I was gonna fail, it was now. And so I finally go inside
wow.
the room. They set me up. I signed in like at 11:55. So, and then you have 15 minutes before the test begins to do whatever you want, go over the reference book. So, what I did before, which is a good example, is I write down all the formulas that I know is going to come out. So, like GPM to cubic feet per second,
Mm,
all the things that I know is going to come out, like kilonewtons to, whatever conversion, so that's usually what I did before. I didn't do that this time because I was just so like, oh my God, I don't have my calculator. This is crazy. And then it was more of a self-reflection moment and a sense of defeat,
mm,
which is I'm such an outlier. S- So finally the test starts automatically because
yep.
I'm just like staring at the test. And then the very first question is like an integral question that I need my calculator. I could solve it. I know the concept, but the calculator, I could solve it in 10 seconds. I'm not going to go and do, and then the calculator they have is not your
Mm-hmm.
calculator. So I was like, click next, click next, another question, a matrix question, click, click, click. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. So I went to the ethics questions right away. I, built my little momentum up there. And then miraculously, the proctor tapped me on my shoulder and gave me my calculator. I don't know how they got the calculator up to the test room. But I was like, oh,
Wow.
think. So I'm assuming that either my dad came up or the guy went downstairs
Mm-hmm.
and picked it up. I don't know how. I haven't asked because I'd rather be blown. So
Wow.
that was good. So my
Yeah.
excitement kept on going. So you want me to keep on with the
Yeah,
with the
keep
testing?
going. Yeah,
Okay,
this is, I've
because
never heard of this before.
I know it's
Wow,
crazy.
that is very stressful. Like I'm trying to put myself in that situation. Just hearing you telling the story, I'm getting like super anxious.
I know, and it gets worse. It gets worse.
Oh, it gets worse. Okay,
S-
wow.
So so now I'm like, oh, calculator. I'm excited. So I'm answering the questions, ethics and engineering economics and statics and blah blah blah, blah, right? So I said I have this little strategy of I want to keep track of my time. I don't want to spend more than 5 minutes on a question. Go on to the next one. The key is to answer as much questions as you can, um, confidently, and then go back. So flag and all that good stuff, right? So I think I skipped like maybe 15 questions, but I didn't remember I skipped those questions. So when I got to the ending of the morning part, uh I had like about I spent like 3 hours on the first part, and then I had like 2 hours left for the second part. But when I clicked end, submit, not submit, but like go, they're like, oh, you have 15 unanswered questions. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot the math questions that I skipped.
Right.
Yes,
At the beginning, you
yes,
didn't have your calculator.
yes. And
Yeah.
then engineering economics was part of it too, because I skipped those as
Right.
well. So I was like, oh my God, I'm fudged. I'm fudged. Because I know the answer, but I just want to make sure because all those questions, I know I can answer it. I just need time. And it was a little sense of defeat. And I kid you not, I swear to everything I love. I answer all those questions as sadly as I can. I'm like, oh God, sad, 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 sad. And then finally, when I finally clicked submit, I didn't even review any of the questions. I only had, I swear to her that I love, 71 minutes, I believe, for the
Wow.
second half.
For the second half. Wow.
Horrible. So when I click submit, no, I took the whole usually I don't take the 25-minute break. I just go straight to the test. And
Oh,
that's just
really?
me. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's not a good strategy. Maybe it is, but it's just maybe to use the bathroom, but this is the one time that I actually left the test center. I went downstairs to Starbucks. I remember I looked up in the sky. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like so close, yet so far. Like I have 50, so I answered, it was 59 questions, I believe. So now I have 51 questions to
41
answer
or
no,
51? Yeah,
because it's
50.
110.
Right, right, right.
And the first half was 59 questions. So I have 51 questions to answer in 71 minutes, and they're
Wow.
all civil.
Civil, right. Long. The afternoon session. The questions are not like straightforward, like, an integral.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So how
And
did they go? How did I want to learn hear about the afternoon session?
right,
Did
so
you make
I
it? Did you finish all the questions on time?
I think I guessed on maybe five.
Five?
But
Okay,
I
wow.
said to
Technical.
myself, B straight down. That was my lucky letter, B, right?
Okay.
So, but before that, when I was like in Starbucks, I remember I was just looking up, thinking. I bought myself a coffee, like three espresso shot on that one because remember I broke night, so I'm tired as well.
Right.
And and then there was this one moment, and I don't want to be too spiritual now or anything like that, but there was one moment where I kind of like slapped myself spiritually. I'm like, Felipe, get yourself together. Like there is a chance that you could pass this test even with 71 minutes left. Like it's the game is not over. Like, come on, get back on the horse. So it was kind of and this is the horrible part about the FE exam. Like you literally feel like you're going crazy and you're not crazy. It's just that it just you get to that level. So that kind of pushed me. I was like, yeah, you're right. If there's a chance, I'm gonna do it. So then my strategy entering that, but first of all, I wanted to like take a breath before I start, but I got there a minute late, so the test already started. So
Wow.
as soon as I got there, I'm like, oh my God. But as I was going up in the elevator and getting myself together, I said, like, all right, Felipe, what is your strategy here? All right. If you could read the question in 15 seconds, look at the answer it. Any calculation question, you're gonna see it. Like BOD questions and stuff like that. Excuse me. Like skip it and answer all the questions because what sucks about the FE as well is just that you can't go to certain questions until you go through every question. FYI, just so and I know you know this, but I'm just reminding you because I would have loved to start with construction design because I'll bang all 10 questions out in,
Mm,
in 2 minutes. But I need to click next, 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 next,
right.
next, next. And I even went as crazy as calculating how long it takes me to take the mouse up to the answer and down to the submit. It takes me approximately 1.5 seconds. So 1.5 seconds
Wow.
times times 50. That's like a whole, like it's you're losing minutes and minutes I can't afford. I only
Yeah.
got 71 minutes. So that was my strategy. So the very first question, it was, I believe it was in water resources, which is an extension of fluid, right? I didn't even read the question. I was like, oh, boom, 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 did the calculation, answered it in like 10 seconds. So I'm like, all right, now I have 71 minutes for 50 questions. And I kind of wrote that down on the side, like on my, I like, all right, so 70 minutes left, 50 questions. I did spend time on that, but that's just to help me mentally. I had to see that. But like, oh, Felipe, you only have this left for this much question. You have this much for this much question. And I was so lucky because all the questions I kept on, then I had a conceptual question, boom, 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 answered it in 10 seconds. Then another question that was really about a geyser and stuff like that. Perfect. I've seen this question before. Boom, 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 answered it in less than 30 seconds. So I was like, oh my God, is it possible that I really, oh my God. So I got really, really, really excited. I skipped maybe like 12, 12 to 15 questions. When I finally got to the end, I did flag some. And when I finally got to the end, I think I had like 12 minutes left. So
Mm,
I banged it out all out. And it was when I got to transportation, out of the 10 questions or 11, whatever it was, I think like two of them were hard, but they're not hard. It's just that I need to calculate it,
right.
like all that good stuff. And and yeah, and I actually left the exam with surreal feeling of like, I think you got this. And then,
Hmm.
the little devil on the side was like, no, you didn't. You said no one could take a whole second session in 71 minutes. It took you 4 hours, almost 5 hours on the first session, on the easy one. And you think you're gonna pass it. So that was like the little demon, I guess, in
Yeah.
me, saying like, dude, prepare for July. And then a
Mm.
week later, when I got the exam score, I froze, and I was like, "Wow!" Like, wow. So yeah, it was horrible.
That was quite a journey. Just your exam itself,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
wow, that was very stressful. But you did it. Isn't that incredible? Like the ones that you took before, you have planned out everything, everything went your way, everything went the way you wanted it, and then you didn't pass. And then the one where it's like so much happening, didn't expect it, you ended up passing it. And
yeah,
I think that break that you took is very important, where you had to really quickly talk
yeah.
to
Like,
yourself and just be like, you know what, I might still have a chance. And I think
yeah,
that's really important. I think a lot of times what happens to students is that when they get to the exam, and if something happens that does not go the way they were expecting, or like they get certain questions and they're like, I've never seen this before, especially like I've noticed that students, let's say they start with math, right? You start with that subject, and then you get questions that you didn't expect. So let's say a lot of us would go in and be like, I hope I get integrals, derivatives. Those are easy, some easy, nice algebra problems, the equation of the line, all that stuff. And then you get in there and you don't get that. And then you start
hmm,
spiraling. And then
yeah,
you already don't start like with what you were expecting or hoping to get, right? And then you
hmm,
just start spiraling from there, and you're like, oh my god, if I couldn't answer these math problems, how am I going to answer statics and other subjects? And then you just really start spiraling. And I think that's what really gets people. And then from there, they end up not doing well. And I think it's really important to have a very strong mind before going in. And I think
Yes.
that's what really, really, really important, because that's very powerful. If you can try in those times where you get things that you didn't expect, to just pull it together and
Yep.
just don't let yourself spiral, and just to keep going, I think that is very powerful. So, and I'm glad you were able to do that and pull yourself together. And I think if you didn't, and you stayed in that spiral mode, and you're like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to do this, I don't think you would have went in with the strategy of like, let's just tackle these problems one after the other. And then also like you had that energy and the excitement going up, and so that really helped you. But if you went in with different mindset, I don't think you would have been able to make it.
No, yeah.
I think you would have.
Especially the break, like that really, and that was, again, this was the first time that I didn't like not take the break. Like, this is the first time I took
Right,
the break.
right,
And but I took it for different reason. I took it because I felt defeated.
right,
And you're right, like that sense of defeat, which I never really feel in my life, like kind of snapped me out of it. Like, come on, you got this. Like, it's not, it's still possible. It's still
yeah,
possible. Like, the test is not over. And also, I want to add, because you triggered a thought in me. The worst feeling, especially like for somebody like me that took it 8 times, is that you get a question that you never seen in your life. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I remember one time, it wasn't for this last example. One time I had a vibration question. I'm like, what the hell is this? And that, like, it just, it's discouraging. It's like, oh
right.
my God, like I have so much more to learn. You think you know everything, or you think you've been exposed to everything. And then when you take the test and you get certain questions, are like, where was this? Like, I had like 5, 6 different platforms. I've not seen this. What was going on? And so I was lucky that I wasn't surprised in this last test as well.
Mm,
So that was good.
yeah. Yeah, I guess that worked out well. But I'm glad you brought that up, because like I think that's a lot, sometimes majority of people struggle with that. Like, I remember when I took my FE exam, I think I had a couple questions where like, I've never seen this before. And I think the best thing to do is just like, you know, put whatever your favorite letter, or whatever letter, or try to do maybe an educated guess, and just move on. And something
Yeah,
I always tell
yeah.
students, like, don't go in with the idea that you're gonna get every single question. I don't think there is like an engineer who can go to that exam and get every single question correct within that time frame. You know what I
hmm
mean? So it's like,
hmm
because like there's no one is gonna have that much exposure to water resources, structures, transportation, and all those
Geotechnical,
fields,
yes.
right? Like, you might have like expertise in one area, but you might not know what's going on in transportation. You might be a
hmm
structural
hmm
design and have no idea what's going on with transportation. So it's like, it's a little bit unrealistic, the fact that we need to know all these different disciplines in the civil engineering. And I think same thing goes with mechanical. And they try to keep it as like general as possible, as engineering as possible, although sometimes they do throw a couple concepts or conceptual questions that is based on experience. And it's like, and that's okay.
Yeah,
If you don't have that experience, if you don't work in that field, if you don't know that answer, just move on and flag it, move on, or don't even flag it. Don't even waste your time coming back to it.
exactly.
Throw an answer
Exactly.
and move
It's
on.
it's okay to let
Exactly.
go. It's
Yeah.
perfectly
Yeah.
fine to let go.
Yeah. And I
And
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think people really struggle with that. A lot of people would just hold on to that, and then they struggle. And like you said, they would start spiraling. And if you don't do a reset, right? I think that's really important. I had a student, I think it was Beth. Um, I interviewed her, and she shared this during her interviews. She was like, it's okay to take a break in the middle of your exam. If you feel like you want to go to the bathroom, or if you just want to reset, or if you just want to take a big breath, go for it. Like 5 minutes, it's not gonna like add anything to your exam.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's going to do is give you that reset and then maybe come back stronger. So, if you find yourself, for those people, for the students who are watching, or maybe Philip, when you take your PE, in fact, she actually did it for her PE as well. She started spiraling. She was like, you know what? I'm going to go take that 5-minute break. She went to the bathroom. She took a big breath. She did the reset. She came back and she nailed her exam. She passed it. So that's something that's very important to remember. If you find yourself in that situation, always take a step back and reset. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so a week later, you found that you passed your FE exam. How did that feel? You told everybody. You texted me, obviously. You told me as well. It was very exciting day.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I remember very specifically because my boss was, telling me something at that moment. I got the email, and I clicked, and, the link, and I already done this 7 times before, so I already knew, like, click, 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 click. So I wasn't oh my God, you ready to see what you? It was more of a, I guess I was expecting to see red, and my boss is talking about, oh, Felipe, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, click, 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 and then I see green. I'm like I still today I don't know what he said. So everything just went white, and I have my energy analyst who also happens to be my cousin, and I think in the middle of my boss talking to me, I'm like, Crystal, like, come over here. So Crystal came over, and whatever my boss was telling me to do, I had to get up and go with him or do something. And I was like, look, and I just got up on my desk, and she like, oh shit. Holy shit. So, because she knows the journey, and she was
Yeah.
actually the one who texts like the family group chat, you free plastic,
Okay.
but and then people were calling me, and I couldn't answer. I'm just, going at 1,000. It didn't sink in until maybe even like the following day, to be honest. I was like, oh my God, I really bad when I actually had time to, soak it in. And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know. And then that was at that time I said, who should I tell? Like, but yeah, my family kind of already knew. I told a few friends, and I believe around that's the time around I told you, and I was just emotionless, proud, you know, just like, wow, finally, man. Um, yeah, it was. It's the journey was worth it, and again, you gotta love it. You gotta have that passion, because it makes it all the more worth it. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I always love asking students, when you guys pass your FE, how did that feel? And it's amazing to see you guys' reaction, and just like it's like almost reliving that moment, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can see like the expressions in your faces, and you guys just get really happy and excited again. And something I always tell students usually after the interview is, when you start your PE journey, just remember this journey. When you have, because you're gonna have ups and downs, of course, and you're gonna have some tough moments, and when you get to that, just remember that you did it once, you passed your FE, so
Hmm.
hold on to that and take that with you when you go to the PE. And so when you
Yeah,
have those tough moments, you remind yourself, I did that, I can do
yeah,
it
yeah,
again, I can
yeah.
keep going. And so that's incredible. I have one last question for you. If a student comes up to you and asks you to list 3 things that really helped you pass your FE exam, what would you say to them? What would be those 3 things?
I would say mental focus in the sense of, positive thoughts, positive energy, just just always think good. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I was very hard on myself, too much hard. You would think that that is what made me pass, but maybe if I wasn't so hard on myself, I would have passed earlier or sooner, right? I would say be positive, positive energy all around. Uh, it, it, it it's hard because I want to say balance, but I did not have any balance, but having a good balance could help with the positive energy around you and your mental health and all that good stuff. Uh, so I would say like don't be too hard on yourself. So positive energy, don't be too hard on yourself, and set goals. Set goals. So even if it's as minimum, how I did one question a day. There's no day off. Like I used to be a big, you know, like heavy in the gym and bodybuilding. Bodybuilders don't have days off. They will work on one thing a day, legs, chest, back, biceps, whatever. Treat that as the FE like that. So there shouldn't be any day off. If you really want to pass this test, you gotta say, I want to pass this test. And nothing that's extracurricular activities or stuff like that should get in the way. Work obviously is inevitable, personal life, wife, kids, but the very next thing should be a grind, focus, and just answer at least one question a day, do a sections, just build that momentum. So I would say, yeah, build momentum, question a day, work, personal life balance, and positive energy.
Awesome. Well, Philip, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story with us. I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of people. Congratulations again. I'm very, very happy for you and proud of you.
Thank you.
I knew this day was gonna come. I had no doubt. And it's really incredible what you have accomplished. So thank you for joining us today and sharing your story with us.
No, yeah, and listen, I want to end it with this too. I thank you so much, Kenzo. You have no idea.
Thank you.
Um, it's you were literally the person that really gave me that guidance and kept it going. And I acknowledge that you're very busy. Your platform is growing tremendously. And every time people ask me, I would definitely say, no, Kenza definitely helped out. And it's that passion that you have as well. Like, even right now, you smiling like this, like you enjoy this, and you need to surround people. You need to surround yourself with people like that, so you can have that push and that extra excitement and satisfaction in the end. And I personally thank you so much, and I owe you a lot. So
Mm.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Philip. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you.